Hey everyone, in this video we're going to take a look at part 10 of the Perseus story from Ritchie's Fabulae Faciles. Now this part is called Polydectes is Turned to Stone, which kind of gives away the plot, but at least you have an idea of what's about to happen and maybe it'll make the Latin a little easier for you. So if you remember what's been going on up until this point, Perseus in the last part had just saved Andromeda from the sea monster, and as a reward from King Cepheus, right, he was given Andromeda to be his wife, so they were married. So the last thing that we had spoken about and translated is he had spent a few years in Ethiopia. He was held in great honor there, and then he remembers that his mom is being, hounded by King Polydectes, the guy who originally sent him on his quest to find Medusa, and the one who wants to marry his mom. So he starts to get that longing to help his mother out. He kind of remembers what his duty is, and he heads back. So now we've gotten to the point where he's going to return home and try to find his mother. So we start the story with postquam Perseus ad insulam navem apulet, se ad locum contulet ubi mater olim habitaverat, sed domum invenit vacuum et omnino deserta. So it's a long sentence, right? But if we break it apart, it starts by saying afterward, right? Remember, he's kind of landed and he's searching for his mother on the island. So it's saying after Perseus landed his boat, his Nawam, at the island, or he kind of drove his boat to the island, you might say, right? Which is the island of King Polydectes. It says he contulit, he was looking for his mom, right? So it talks about how he's looking for his mother, and say contulit here, it's from the verb confere, to bring or to carry. It literally means he brought himself, right? Say is the reflexive pronoun. So it's saying that he brought himself to the place, ad locum, right? Ubi mater, where his mother once, olim, meaning once, a lot of times it's translated once upon a time. It doesn't necessarily mean that, it just mean once in the past. His mother had lived. So habitaverat is pluperfect tense. You can tell by the erat, right? Erat is the imperfect tense of esse, and it's on the third principal part of the verb to live, habitav, right? So he goes to the place where his mother once had lived, meaning the place he kind of remembers when he last saw her. But he found the house, the domum, he found it vacuum, which means empty, right? And omnino desertam, which means entirely deserted, right? So desertam, deserted, of course. Omnino here means sort of like entirely, wholly, altogether, however you want to translate it. One of those will get you in the right place. So again, the idea here is that he goes home, he searches the island, he's trying to find his mother, he goes to where he last kind of saw her, where he knew that she last lived, and he just finds the house empty. So now he's not entirely sure where his mother is, right? So then we continue. We have tres dies per totam insula matrem quaereba. So here we have the accusative of duration of time, tres dies, so for 3 days, right? Quaerebat means he was seeking. It's an imperfect tense verb. He was looking for. The thing that he's looking for is his matrem, his mother, right? So for 3 days, he was looking for his mother. Per totam insula means throughout the entire island, right? Totam, think total or entire, and the insulam is the island. So he's looking all over the place for his mother, right? Then you have tandem, quarto die, ad templum Dianae pervenit. So finally, tandem, or at last, on the 4th day, here we have the ablative. Remember, when you have the ablative expressing time, a lot of times it's the time when something happened. So on the 4th day rather, or at the 4th day, however you want to translate it, he reached pervenit, right? He reached the temple, the templum. Diana means of Diana, right? So of Artemis in Greek mythology. So he goes to a particular temple. This one is the temple of Diana, and he's just, looking for his mother. So he just tries one place that he hasn't looked yet. Then we have huk danae refugerat, quod polydectem timebat. So here or there, I guess you could say huk, right there, meaning in the temple. Danae, that's his mother, right? His mother had taken refuge, refugerat, right? You could almost translate as she had fled, taken refuge, if that, makes it a little easier for you, whatever makes the most sense, but she had fled there, right? Or you can almost say she had fled to there, to that place is kind of the idea. Why did she flee there? Because, quote, timebat, she was afraid, or she was fearing, Polydectes, right, which is the king who keeps trying to marry her. So it's talking about how she had fled here. And remember, the timing is kind of important here. You have a pluperfect tense verb, re fugerat, and then an imperfect tense verb with timebat. The pluperfect happened first. So it's saying first she fled, right, or she had fled because she was fearing, meaning that even though she's still in the temple, or after she had gotten to the temple, she was still afraid of him, right, is kind of the context going on there. So she's terrified of this king who keeps trying to marry her. You have Perseus, ubi haec cognovit, ira magna commotus est. So Perseus, when he knew, cognovit, when he, you could say knew or understood, or maybe even learned would be the best translation of this, right? And haec here really is the substantive adjective. So when he learned these things, right? When he learned this, you might translate. He was moved, commotus est. Again, here we have a fourth principal part, commotus, and notice how it has a US ending. It's, remember, the participle is an adjective, a verbal adjective, so it's going with Perseus, right? So it's masculine, singular. And it's got the present tense of esse after it, which makes it perfect tense passive voice. So you're saying Perseus was moved, right? Was stirred up. It doesn't mean physically moved, commovere. It means like emotionally moved, right? So he was riled up or stirred up or moved with great anger, ira magna, right? So he's extremely angry is the idea, because he's hearing that Polydectes keeps hounding and harassing his mother, which is probably something he would have known back when he was on the island before he left to kill Medusa, but now it's gotten really bad, so he's furious is kind of the idea. Then you have ad regiam Polydectes, sine mora contendit, et ubi eo venit statum in atrium irrupit. So he went, right? Contended, he went, or he kind of hustled, you might say. He hastened, how you want to translate that. So he hastened to the regium, to the palace of Polydectes, right? To his house, right? And again, remember, regium is related to rex, king. So when you see regium, it's really talking about the palace, I guess would be the best way to translate it. So he went to the palace of Polydectes, right? Genitive, without delay, sine mora, right? And when he came there, when he got there is kind of the idea. Eo means there or at that place. He immediately erupit, he burst into the atrium, right? Erupit, he burst in atrium, is into the atrium. Remember, in a house, the atrium is really that first part of the house that you would enter through the main door. So he bursts in, right? Because he's furious. Then you have Polydectes, magno timore affectus est et fugere voleba. So Polydectes, the king, he was affected, or he was kind of impacted, you might say. And again, remember, affectus is a fourth principal part from afficio, which means to kind of like influence, is kind of one way to do it, to affect something. And it's matching Polydectes. That's why it's masculine singular. And here again, we have the present tense of esse coming after it. So this makes it perfect tense passive voice. So you're saying he was influenced, or he was affected by what? Magno timore, there's your ablative, by great fear, right? Because he realizes, oh no, Perseus is back, and he's furious, right? He can see that. So he was, influenced or affected by great fear, with great fear. And volebat, he was wanting fugere, to flee. So he decides to run away, right? He sees this young hero, Perseus, coming at him. He knows this isn't a good situation. So he wants to run away, right? Dum tamen ille fugit, Perseus capit Medusae monstravit. So here's kind of the dramatic moment. You have however, while he, ille, and ille here is referring to Polydectes, right? Because you have fugit going after it, while he's fleeing or running away, right? So it's referring back to Polydectes, the last person we were talking about. So while he's running away, however, Perseus monstravit, he showed. It's the perfect tense of monstrare. It just means to show something, right? It almost means like he held up, is kind of the idea. He held up the caput, the head of Medusa. Medusa is genitive here. So he showed the head of Medusa. Remember, Perseus has the head. He's kept it this whole time, and it still can turn people to stone. So this is the punishment he inflicts on Polydectes. He holds up the head for him to look at while he's trying to run away. Ille autem simul atque hoc vidit in saxum versus est. So you have ille, again, it's talking about Polydectes, right? He, at the same time as, so atque, here means like and or as, you might translate it. So it's saying at the same time, or you might even say as soon as, is probably a better way to do it. As soon as, at the same time as, however you want to translate it. He saw this. Hoc here is referring to the head, the caput, right? So as soon as he saw this, meaning the head, versus est, again, perfect tense, passive voice, he was turned, right? It's from the verb vertere, which means to turn something. He was turned in soxum, into stone. Okay, which is what happens when you look at the head of Medusa. So again, he tries to run away. You have to imagine he must be running towards Perseus, I guess, to be able to look at the head. But as soon as he sees the head, which Perseus holds up, he gets turned into stone and he's killed. And this is the punishment that Perseus inflicts back on Polydectes for all the crazy things he's been trying to do, marrying his mother and all these things. So this is the first sort of king that Perseus kills. And you'll see how the rest of the story plays out too. There's one more sort of king on the list for Perseus to take care of. And we'll see what happens in the next part. It'll explain how that all plays out. But hopefully the Latin was pretty straightforward here. Again, nothing too crazy, some perfect passive verbs, but otherwise, pretty straightforward. So hopefully you're getting the hang of it. The good thing about these stories is they do repeat a lot of words. So hopefully you're catching on to the vocab and the sentence structure that Ritchie's using. Your 10 out of 11 passages or parts or chapters, however you want to think of it, through the story. So there's only one left. So at this point, you should be feeling really comfortable with everything you've read. And you're feeling more confident in reading instead of translating. So again, the idea here, and my recommendation to you would be make sure you're reading it, read the story aloud without directly translating every single word. And as you read it, you should become more confident in recognizing what's happening, where the subject is. If you have a pretty strong vocab base, you'll be able to get a good idea of what the sentence means. And then you can always go back and fill in the blanks with any constructions you're confused on, or if there's any grammar you're not entirely sure on, you can do that after you've read through it a few times. So again, my advice to you, always try to read instead of directly translating, and then come back and finish off your translation. So again, if you have any questions at all on this section or anything in it, feel free to put a comment. I'll help you however I can. But otherwise, just keep reading. You're almost done with the Perseus story. Hopefully you're feeling confident. And again, the more you do this and the more you read, the better off you're going to feel. So keep at it. Good luck.